Enter Ludovic left. Ludovic. Hello? Is Renee here? Trevor. He was. A minute or two ago. I think I heard him leave the house. Ludovic. Has anything been heard of his mother? So many distracting things have been happening, I clean forgot to ask about her. Trevor. By Jove, so did I. He'll think us rather amiss, but anyhow, he seemed more concerned about finding me a suitable wife than about retrieving his lost parent. Have you heard anything of the story that he says is going about? Ludovic, seating himself. About last night, you mean? Yes, that Sparby and I proposed to the same girl, and Sparby bounced me into taking a back seat. Ah, no. At least, probably what I heard had reference to that. What an unpleasant scandal. Unfortunately, the fact that Sybil is leaving Briony in such a hurry will give colour to it. Trevor. Was it Sybil, then? I suppose so. I think I heard her name mentioned. What shall you do, then? Do? I don't know. What do you suggest? My suggestion would be so simple that you're not likely to accept it for a moment. If one shows people an intricate and risky way out of a difficulty, they are becomingly grateful. If you point out a safe and obvious exit, they regard you with resentment. In your case, the resentment would probably take the form of going to sleep in the middle of my advice. Trevor. I wasn't going to sleep. I was wondering which particular girl you were going to recommend to my notice. There seems to be a connection to Sybil Beaumont. Ludovic. It's scarcely my place to fill in the details for you. I suppose matrimony is an eventuality which begins to present itself rather prominently to you. And when you've settled that point, the details soon fit themselves in. If the Beaumont girl doesn't meet your requirements, there is your neighbour Evelyn Bray, whom you entangled in last night's entertainment. I shall never forget her face when I told her that Hortensia didn't require any more music. And there's Claire Hennessy. You used to get on famously with Claire. Trevor. Claire and Evelyn are very good sorts. Ludovic, raising his hand. Good sorts. Oh, my dear Trevor, you are still in the schoolboy stage as regards women. The schoolboy divides womankind broadly into two species, the decent sort and the holy whore, much as the naturalist, after a somewhat closer investigation of a subject, classifies snakes as either harmless or poisonous. The schoolboy is usually fairly well informed about things that he doesn't have to study, but as regards women, he is altogether too specific. You can't really divide them in a hard and fast way. Trevor. At least there are superficial differences, but nothing deeper. Woman is a belated survival from a primeval age of struggle and cunning and competition. That is why whenever you go the world over, you find all the superfluous dust and worrying being made by the gentler sex. If you are on a crowded P&O steamer, who is it that wages incessant warfare over the cabin accommodation? Who is it that creates the little social feuds that divide benighted country parishes and lonely hill stations? Who is it that raises objections to smoking in railway carriages, and who writes to home masters to complain of the dear boys' breakfast fare? Man has moved with the historic progression of the ages. But woman is a habit that has survived from the period when one had a dispute with cave bears and cave hyenas whether one ate one's supper or watched others eat it, whether one slept at home or on one's doorstep. The great religions of the world have all recognized this fact and kept womankind severely outside their respective systems. That is why, however secular one's tendencies, one turns instinctively to religion in some form for respite and peace. Trevor. But one can't get along without women. Ludovic. Precisely what I've been trying to impress upon you. Granted that woman is merely a bad habit, she is a habit that we have not grown out of. Under certain circumstances, a bad habit is a first cousin to a virtue. In your case, it seems to me that matrimony is not only a virtue, but a convenience. Trevor. It's all very well for you to talk about convenience. What may be convenient for other people might be highly inconvenient for me. That means you're involved in some blind alley affair with a married woman. Precisely what I feared. Men like yourself have easygoing, unsuspecting temperaments and verily fall victims to the most rapacious type of cavewoman. The woman who already has a husband and who merely kills for the sake of killing. You pick and choose and dally among your artificial categories of awfully good sorts and dear little woman, and then someone of the Mrs. Volpe type comes along and quietly annexes you. Trevor. I seem to have been annexed to Mrs. Volpe by popular delimitation. Critically speaking, she isn't a bit my style, but I don't see anything so very dreadful about her. She's a trifle pronounced, perhaps. She tells me she had a Spanish grandfather. Ancestors will happen in the best-intentioned families. Every social sin or failing is excused nowadays under the plea of an artistic temperament or a Sicilian grandmother. As poor Lady Clausen once told me, as soon as her children found out that a Hungarian lady of blameless moral character had married into the family somewhere in the reign of the Georges, she considered themselves absolved from any further attempt to distinguish between good and evil. except by way of expressing a general preference for the latter. When her youngest boy was at Winchester, he made such an unblushing use of the Hungarian strain in his blood that he was known as the Blue Danube. That, said Lady Clotsam, is what comes of letting young children read Debrett and Darwin. Trevor. As regards Mrs. Volpe's temperament, I don't fancy one needs to go very far afield. Oh, no. Greater London is quite capable of turning her out without having recourse to foreign blending. Trevor. Still, I don't see that she's anything worse than a flirt. Oh, on her best behaviour, I've no doubt she's perfectly gentle and frolicsome. For the matter of that, the cave-hyenas probably had their after-dinner moments of comparative amiability. But from the point of view of an extremely marriageable young bachelor, she simply isn't safe to play with. I don't want to run her down on the score of her rather common personality, but I wish to warn you that she is one of those people gifted with just a sort of pushing, scheming audacity. Enter Mrs. Volpe, door centre. Oh, good morning, Mrs. Volpe. Trevor looks round and jumps to his feet. Just a sort of pushing, scheming audacity that makes them dangerous. Once we let them wiggle their way into the Persian Gulf, they'll snap up all our commerce under our eyes. Mrs. Volpe. You dreadful men. Always talking politics. Politics are rather in the air just now. Mrs. Volpe. I feel as if we're all in the air after the dreadful explosion of last night. I'm just wondering where I'm going to come down. Trevor. It seems an awful shame. Driving all you charming people away. My mother goes to absurd lengths about some things. Mrs. Volpe. It's poor us who have to go to the absurd lengths. I shan't feel safe till I put 2 fair-sized counties between Mrs. Bavvel and myself. Oh, Mr. Trevor, before I leave, you must show me the model dairy. Trevor. Righto. I'll take you there now if you like. Mrs. Volpe. Do, please. I just love dairies and cheese-making and all that sort of thing. I think it's so clever the way they make those little blue insertions in the gorgonzola cheese. I always say I ought to have been a farmer's wife. We'll leave Ludovic to his horrid politics. Ludovic. Before I forget, Trevor, go and get me those trout flies you promised me, and I'll have them packed. Mrs. Volpe won't mind, I dare say, waiting for you here for a few minutes. Right you are. I won't be a second. Exit Trevor. I hope you don't despise me too much. Despise you? Oh, Mr. Ludovic, whatever could I despise you for? For being fool enough to put confidence in you as a fellow conspirator. Why, I'm sure I've been loyal enough to our compact. If the results haven't been brilliant, you can scarcely blame me for the breakdown. Compact was that you should help in an endeavour to get Trevor engaged to one of the girls of the house party. I don't think I'm mistaken in saying that the game you are playing is to secure him for yourself. Never more mistaken in your life! Really, you seem to forget that I'm a married woman. Your memory is even shorter. You seem to forget that you received a telegram this morning to say that your husband is dead. Oh, whatever will you say next? You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, it's correct enough, I read it. How dare you intercept my correspondence? The telegram was marked plain enough, Volpe co Bavvel. You're simply a common sneak. I didn't read the intelligence in your telegram. I read it in your manner. You've just been obliging enough to confirm my deductions. Oh, you're trying amateur detective business on me, are you? With sudden change of manner. Now look here, Mr. Ludovic, don't set yourself against me. Why shouldn't I marry Trevor? You said yourself 2 days ago that it was a pity I wasn't a widow, so that I could be eligible for marrying him. Of course, I spoke jestingly. Well, it isn't a jest to me. I've had a wretched, miserable time with my late husband. I can't tell you what a time I've had with him. Because you have had a miserable time with the late Mr. Volpe is precisely, my dear lady, the reason why I don't wish you to try the experiment of being miserable with my nephew. You are so utterly unsuited to him in his surroundings that you couldn't fail to be unhappy and make him unhappy into the bargain. I don't see why I should be unsuited to him. Trevor's a gentleman, and I am a lady, I suppose. Perhaps you wish to suggest that I am not. You are, if you will permit me to say so, a very charming and agreeable lady. But you would not fit in with the accepted ideals of the neighbourhood. You have too much dash and go and indefinable characteristics. I don't know if you've noticed it, but in Somersetshire, we don't dash. Oh, don't fling your beastly county set with its prejudices in my face. I'm as good as the lot of you and a bit better. I mix in far smarter circles than you've got here. Lulu Duchess of Dulverton and her set are a cut above the pack of you, and as for you, if you want my opinion, you're a meddling, interfering, middle-aged toad. You asked me a moment ago why you shouldn't marry Trevor. You're supplying one of the reasons now. You're flying into something very like a rage. In Somersetshire, we never fly into a rage. We walk into one. And when necessary, we stay there for weeks, perhaps for years. But we never fly into one. Oh, I've had enough of your sarcasms. You've had my opinion of you. You're a mass of self-seeking and intrigue. You're mistaken if you think I'm going to let a middle-aged toad stand in my path. Enter Trevor. Trevor. Here are all the flies I could find. Sorry to have kept you waiting, but I had to hunt for them. Ludovic. Don't mention it. We've been having such an interesting talk about the age toads live to. Mrs. Volpe is quite a naturalist. Mrs. Volpe. I've got all my packing to do, so we'd better not lose any more time. Trevor. Right you are. We will go off at once. Exit Trevor and Mrs. Volpe right. Enter Agatha left. Ludovic flings himself down savagely at writing table. Agatha. Have you seen Trevor anywhere? Ludovic. He was here a minute ago. I believe he's now in the dairy. The dairy? What's he doing in the dairy? I don't know. What does one do in dairies? What makes butter and that sort of thing? Trevor can't make butter. I don't believe he can. We spend incredible sums on technical education, but the number of people who know how to make butter remains extremely limited. Is he alone? I fancy Mrs. Volpe is with him. That cat! Why is she with him? I don't know. There's a proverb, isn't there, about showing a cat the way to the dairy, but I forget what happens next. I call it rather compromising. It's a model dairy, you know. I don't see that makes it any better. Mrs. Volpe is scarcely a model woman. She's a married woman. A South African husband is rather a doubtful security. And you can scarcely blame her for taking a provident interest in West of England bachelors. It's simply indecent. She might wait till one husband is definitely dead before trying to rope in another. My dear Agatha, brevity is the soul of widowhood. Agatha. I loathe her. She promised she would try and get Trevor to put an end to all this muddle and row by getting him engaged to Sybil or anyone else available. How do you know she's not trying now? Oh, I say, do you think she is? I think it's quite possible. Also, I think it's quite possible that Trevor is discussing learnedly on the amount of milk a Jersey cow can be induced to yield under intelligent treatment. Frankly, I consider these milk and egg statistics that one is expected to talk about in the country border on the indelicate. If I were a cow or hen, I should resent having my most private and personal actions treated as a sort of auction bridge. The country has no reticence. Enter Sybil Wright. Sybil. Well, I've packed. Oh dear, I haven't begun. I know I shall be late for the train. I'm always late for trains. I must go and dig up some foxglove roots in the plantation to take away with me. Sybil. I refuse to let you bring more than 5 cubic feet of earth, mould, or stinging nettles into the carriage. Agatha. Don't excite yourself, my dear. I'm going by down train, and you're going by an up, I presume. Sybil. Don't be a pig. You must come with us to make 4 for bridge. There'll be Claire and myself, and you and the Volpe. Otherwise we'll have to let that wearisome Sparrowby in, and I'd rather have a ton of decaying hedge and compressed caterpillar in the carriage than have Sparrowby inflicted on me for 3 mortal hours. Agatha. I'm not going to upset all my visiting plans just to suit your bridge arrangements. Besides, you said the last time we played I had no more notion of the game than an unborn parrot. I haven't got such a short memory, you see. Sybil. I wish you hadn't got such a short temper. Agatha. Me? Short-tempered? My good temper is proverbial. Sybil. Not to say legendary. Ludovic. Please don't start quarrelling. You're making me feel amiable again. Enter Mrs. Volpe, right, trying not to look crestfallen. Mrs. Volpe. I never knew a dairy could be so interesting. All the latest improvements. Such beautiful ventilation and such plain dairymaids. Why, what it is to have a careful mother. You weren't very long in going over it? Oh, I had to rush it, of course. I must go and superintend my packing. It doesn't do to leave everything to one's maid. Sybil. Hortensia. It's no use bolting, we're cornered. Enter Wright, Hortensia, and Colonel Mutsum. Mrs. Volpe. Good morning, Mrs. Bavvel. She bows to the Colonel. Pause. Colonel. Mrs. Bavvel has just been showing me the poultry yard. I've been admiring the black Minorcas. How many eggs did you say they've laid in the last 6 months, Hortensia? Hortensia. I don't think Mrs. Volpe is very much interested in such matters. Mrs. Volpe. Oh, I adore poultry. There's something so Omar Khayyam about them. Lulu, Duchess of Dolwarton, keeps white peacocks. Colonel. Such a disappointment to us not to have had Mrs. Bavvel's lecture last night. All on account of Mrs. St. Gal's extraordinary disappearance. People are talking of a suicide. Others say it's a question of eluding creditors. Her debts, I believe, are simply enormous. Hortensia. One must be careful of echoing local gossip. But from the improvident way in which that household is managed, one is justified in supposing that financial difficulties are not uncommon there. Colonel. In any case, I feel convinced that we shan't see Mrs. Gall in these parts again. Enter Renee, door right, followed by Trevor. Renee. I found my mother! Colonel. Mrs. St. Gall found? You've seen her? Renee. No, but I've spoken to her. She was having a bath when I got back, so we conversed through the bathroom door. Touching scene of filial piety. Return of the prodigal mother, a son weeping over bathroom door handle. We don't have a fatted calf, but I promised her an egg with her tea. Colonel. But where has she been all this time? Renee. Principally at Cardiff. Colonel. Cardiff? Whatever did she go to Cardiff for? Renee. She didn't want to go. She was taken. Hortensia. Taken? She was doing a stroll on the Crowcombe Road when Frida Tewkesbury and her husband swooped down on her in the road car. They live in Warwick. At least they've got a house and some children there, but since they've gone mad with motoring, they spend most of their time on the highway. The poor we have always in our midst, and nowadays the rich may crash into us at any moment. Colonel. Your mother wasn't run over. Renee. Oh, no. But Frida took her for a spin and then insisted on her coming just as she was for a day or two's visit to Monmouth and Cardiff. Frida is always picking up her friends in that impromptu way. She keeps spare toothbrushes and emergency night things of various sizes on her car. Of course, you can't dress for dinner, but that doesn't matter very fundamentally in Cardiff. Ludovic. But surely your mother might have telegraphed to say what had become of her. Renee. She did. From Monmouth. With long directions about charcoal biscuits for the chow's suppers. And again from Cardiff to say when she was coming back. Frida gave the wires to her husband to send off, which accounts for their never having reached us. None of the Tewkesburys have any memories. Their father got a knock on the head at Inkerman, and since then the family has never been able to remember anything. I love borrowing odd sums from Tewkesbury. Both of us are so absolutely certain to forget all about it. Hortensia. And it was on account of this madcap freak that last night's function was postponed? And my address cancelled? Colonel. This promiscuous gadding about in motors is undermining all home life and sense of locality. One scarcely knows nowadays to which country people belong. Hortensia. I trust that Mrs. St. Gall showed some appreciation of the anxiety and alarm caused by her disappearance. Renee. I don't know. I wasn't in a position to see. Hortensia. Altogether a most extraordinary episode. A fitting sequel to last night's Saturnalia. Colonel. A Saturnalia. Here, at Briony. Advantage was taken of my absence at Panfold last night to indulge in an entertainment which I describe as a Saturnalia for fear of giving it a worse name. Ludovic. Perhaps we are judging it a little too seriously. A little dancing in a particularly objectable character. In costumes improvised from bed linen. Colonel. Bed linen. To an accompaniment of French songs. Colonel. French songs. Oh, that's horrible. I was told that it was merely Shakespeare readings. Hortensia. I regret to say that some of the servants appear to have lent themselves to the furtherance of this underhand proceeding. Among others, it will be my unpleasant duty to ask the cook to find another place. I shall give her a good character as a cook, but I shall be very restrained as to what I say about her trustworthiness. Trevor. But mother, isn't that being rather extreme? She's an awfully good cook. I put conduct over cookery. After all, she did nothing more than make 2 or 3 supper dishes for us. She couldn't be expected to know that there would be French songs to follow. Hortensia. It was her duty to consult me as to these highly unusual preparations. I had given my customary orders for the kitchen department, and they did not include chicken mayonnaise or peshmelba. Had she informed me of these unauthorized instructions that she had received, the mischief would have been detected and nipped in the bud. Trevor. I think it's scarcely fair that she should be punished for what we did. Trevor rises and goes to window right center. Ludovic. I confess, I think it's rather unfortunate that such an eminently satisfactory cook should be singled out for dismissal. Hortensia. Scarcely singled out, Ludovic. 2 or 3 of the other servants will also have to go. Colonel.
One must see that one's orders are respected, mustn't one?
Enter William left with card. Will, to Ludovic. The reporter of the Wessex Courier would like to speak with you, sir. Ludovic. Tell him I'm unable to see any pressman at the moment. Will, handing card to Ludovic. He's written a question which he would feel obligated if you'd answer, sir. Hortensia. What is the question?
He wants to know if I intend standing in the event of a parliamentary vacancy.
To William.
You can tell him that I have not the remotest intention of standing.
Renee groans tragically. Will. Yes, sir. Exit William left. Hortensia. Really, Ludovic, I think you are rather precipitate in your decisions. Differing though we do on more than one of the secondary questions of the day, I am nevertheless inclined to think that the Briony influence would be considerably augmented by having one of the family as member for the division. Subject to a certain modification of your political views, I am distinctly anxious to see you representing this district in Parliament. I consider this impending vacancy to be a golden opportunity for you. Ludovic. There are some people whose golden opportunities have a way of getting prematurely grey. I am one of those. Colonel. I must say we rather counted on having you for a candidate. I think I may voice a very general disappointment. Renee. There are some disappointments that are too deep to be voiced. Enter William, door center. Will. If you please, ma'am. Hortensia. What is it? Adolphus has laid an egg. Renee. Oh, improper little bird. Hortensia. An egg?
How very extraordinary. In all the years that we've had that bird, such a thing has never happened. I must admit, I'm rather astonished. See that she has everything she wants and is not disturbed.
Exit William Center. Enter Claire Wright, with telegram in hand. Claire. Great Aunt Mrs. Packington died at 9 o'clock this morning. Trevor goes into fit of scarcely suppressed laughter. Colonel. A great age, was she not? Hortensia. A great age, and for longer than I can remember, a great invalid. At any rate, a great consumer of medicines. I suppose her death must be regarded as coming in the natural order of things. At the same time, I scarcely think, Trevor, that this is a subject for unbridled amusement. Trevor. I'm awfully sorry, but I couldn't help it. It seemed too unexpected to be possible. Please, excuse me. The others stare at him. Claire. The fact is, I was Mrs. Packington's favourite niece. There were things in her will which I couldn't afford to have altered. On the other hand, as I dare say you know, Mrs. Bavvel, she had a very special dislike for you. I am aware of it. We had some differences of opinion during my husband's lifetime. Claire. It was a favourite observation of hers that you reminded her of a rattlesnake in dove's plumage. Colonel. Oh, but what unjust imagery! She hated Briony and everything connected with it, and I had to keep my visits here a dark secret. Colonel. How very embarrassing. Not at all. I like duplicity, when it's well done. But when Trevor asked me to marry him, it did become embarrassing. All the others start up from their seats. Enter William left. Hortensia. Trevor asked you to marry him. 2 months ago. Mrs. Packington wasn't expected to live for another fortnight, but she'd been in that precarious condition off and on for 5 years. At the same time, I couldn't risk letting Trevor slip. He'd have forgotten everything and married someone else in sheer absence of mind. Trevor. I don't altogether admit that, you know. A thing of that sort I should have remembered. Claire. Anyhow, we married on the quiet, by special license. It was rather fun. It felt so like doing wrong. Ludovic. Do you mean to tell us that you are Mrs. Trevor Bavvel? Claire. Of Briony, in the county of Somerset, at your service. Renee shouts. William! Yes, sir? Has that journalist man gone? A minute ago, sir. Quick! Send someone after him! Stop him! Tell him... Ludovic. Then in the event of a vacancy, Mr. Ludovic Bavvel will place himself at the disposal of the party leaders. Fly! Almost pushes William out the door left. Claire. And William. Tell John to bring up some bottles of Heidsick. Will. Yes, ma'am. Sybil. You dear old thing, you've taken all our breaths away. I always said you and Trevor ought to make a match of it. Kisses her. Agatha. I shall put up evergreens all over the house. Kisses her. Hortensia. On a subject of such primary importance as choosing a wife, I should have preferred and certainly expected to be consulted. As you have chosen this rather furtive method of doing things, I don't know that there's anything for me to do beyond offering my congratulations, which in the nature of things must be rather perfunctory. I congratulate you both. I trust that the new mistress of Briony will remember that certain traditions of conduct and decorum have reigned here for a generation. I think without making undue pretensions that Briony has set an example of decent domestic life to a very large neighbourhood. Claire. My dear Hortensia, I think Briony showed last night what it could do in the way of outgrowing traditions. Trevor and I have had plenty of time during the last 2 months to think of our main features in the new regime. We shall keep up the model dairy and the model pigsties, but we've decided that we won't be a model couple. Enter John with 4 bottles of fizz. John to Claire. If you please, madam, will the wagonette and luggage cart be required as ordered? Claire. No. I don't think anyone will be leaving today. I shall expect you all to prolong your visit in our honour. Oh, of course. I was forgetting Mrs. Volpe has to go up to Tattersall's to see about some hunters. Just the dog cart, then. Hortensia. I shall require the carriage for the 4:15 down. There's a conference at Exeter that I think I ought to attend. John. Very well, madam. Exit left. Exeunt Hortensia and Colonel Mutsum right. Agatha, holding up glass. You dear things. Here's your very good health. And may you have lots and lots of... Renee. Oh, hush! I was going to say lots of happiness. Oh, I was afraid you were going to lecture against race suicide. Ludovic, Sybil, Mrs. Volpe, and Renee, speaking together. Mr. and Mrs. Trevor Bavvel. They drink. Trevor. Thank you all.
And here's to the success of the future member of the division.
Claire. Coupled with that of his charming secretary. Ludovic and Renee bow. Enter William, centre, with an enormous pile of sandwiches. Will. Cook thought that as the sandwiches wouldn't be wanted for this afternoon, you might like them now. Those with mustard on the right, without on the left. Sardine and egg in the middle. And please, I'm asked to express the general rejoicing in the servants' hall. And Cook says that if marriages are made in heaven, the angels will be for putting this one in the window as a specimen of their best work. Claire. Thank Cook and all of you very much. She whispers to Trevor. Of course, certainly. And tell John to open some cell in the servants' hall for you all to drink our healths. We're coming in presently to get your congratulations. Will. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. William turns to go. And William! William turning back. Yes, ma'am?
How much did you win on the sweepstake?
William turns and flies in confusion. Curtain. And that is the end of the plays of Saki. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed all the witticisms and sarcasms, and I hope you did too. My stamina is reaching its end, and my tongue has been thoroughly twisted. So I'm just going to say, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to have you back in Brendan Moir's Playwright Corner. Thank you.